when India is daydreaming with one nation, one religion, one language, one leader fantasies. 142 years ago, on September 17th, one of India's radical social reformer and the founder of the Dravidian self-respect movement, E.V. Ramaswamy, as he is fondly known as Periyar, was born. His monumental legacy of rationalism and anti-caste activism still inspires millions of Indians. 72 years after Periyar's birth, on the same day, on 17th of September, India's present Prime Minister Narendra Modi was born. But Modi's ongoing legacy of Hindutva politics is exact opposite of what Periyar stood for. And this has brought a serious threat to India's project of nation building, its aspiration to be a modern, scientific, and civilized country. Let me describe a bit what is happening in Modi's so-called New India and how it goes against what Periyar had fought for in his lifetime. Plurality has been usually the hallmark of India in its post-independence period. It has been always, but particularly in the post-independence period politics. This land of bewildering diversity, India is home to many ethnic groups with distinct religious, language, and cultural identities. Since independence, Indian system, with its secular and democratic character, had tried to maintain this diversity with all its difficulties. We all now know that it has never been smooth the way it is supposed to be, but it had tried to maintain it for nearly 7 decades and had provided a space for each group to compete and cooperate. The democratic pluralism in India had given all socio-religious caste groups a place at the table, and with that, most importantly, maintaining the unity and integrity of the country. Survival of India as a state and a democracy has been due to the nature of the Indian state in the post-independence period for its willingness to bargain and accommodate various ethnic groups. This has been seen as the key in maintaining the democratic system despite the deep religious, ethnic, and caste divisions in the society. However, the spectacular rise of BJP since Narendra Modi became Prime Minister in 2014 has threatened the secular character of the country, and with that has brought serious danger to the democracy itself. The major reason for the concern for democratic India is the Prime Minister Narendra Modi himself, a former pracharak of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, RSS. Jawaharlal Nehru in 1947 had cautioned the state chief minister of India. I quote Nehru, "We have a great deal of evidence to show that the RSS is an organization which is in the nature of a private army and which is definitely proceeding on the strictest Nazi lines," unquote. Modi not only trained in the Nazism like Hindutva philosophy of the RSS, the same RSS which had grown multifolds in its size and influence under his rule, is its primary supporter and promoter. Many were expecting Modi to change his Hindutva spots after becoming the Prime Minister of a religiously, ethnically, caste-wise divided country like India. But RSS teaching and its adherence to Manusmriti seems to be more powerful than the country's constitution. Why do we need to be worried? Is secularism so bad for the health of a country as Modi and his party BJP and his ideological parent organization RSS preach? It is a very important question to ponder, as it has even global significance. Recent studies have clearly shown that the world is presently experiencing an unprecedented wave of secularization, while religion is in decline all over the world. There are more secular societies in the world now than the religious ones. Even in Asian countries like Japan, religion is declining. In Japan, while 80% of population consider themselves secular, in China the number is higher than 50%. The increasing secularization of societies is not weakening the societies or breaking up the nations, as Hindutva group has been propagating for decades. Rather, many studies have convincingly shown that most social problems correlate more strongly to religious population than the secular population. Moreover, religious societies not only experience more population growth, as studies have found out, religious children are also meaner compared to from secular households, as their religious belief is a negative influence on being kind to others. As a report by the OECD shows, the top 5 countries with the highest quality of life in the world are secular countries: Australia, Norway, Canada, Sweden, and the United States. If you compare with the United States, within the United States, the ultra-religious states like Mississippi, Arkansas, and Alabama are in the bottom of the quality of life index, while secular states like New Hampshire, Minnesota, and Vermont are on the top. So it's absolutely wrong to presume that a secular nation falls apart. On the other hand, it has a better possibility of being safe and healthy in 21st century. While all evidence shows that a society is more likely to be strong and a state is more likely to be developed by being a secular rather than being religious, in India, Hindutva forces are not only forcing India to discard its secular character, they also want to convert this multi-religious country to subscribe to one and only religion, Hinduism. But who will argue with them? As Periyar has very rightly pointed out, I quote Periyar, "You cannot expect any rational thought from a religious man. He is like a rocking log in water," unquote. The religious zeal of RSS and BJP to convert India to a Hindu nation is not only taking India away from the secular path, which developed and successful nations have adopted in recent decades, it's unfortunately pushing the country to be a Hindu theocracy and promoting caste hierarchy. A theocratic and officially hierarchical India not only will make the leader of the country the chosen favorite of Hindu gods, endangering country's struggling democracy. It will also put the freedom of religion and equality before the law of country's minority, lower caste, and Dalit population under serious threat. Modi, as Prime Minister of India, has fared terribly when it comes to upholding country's democratic and secular ethos, where all religious and ethnic groups are constitutionally equal. Violent attacks against Christians, Muslims, and Dalits by Hindutva mobs, particularly on suspicion of their possession and consumption of beef, have become quite regular. Minority communities and Dalits are living in a virtual siege. India's Supreme Court, which is supposed to protect the Constitution, instead it has been regularly prioritizing the so-called majority sentiments while sacrificing the basic principles of rule of law. As I have recently argued in one of my opinion pieces in the Gulf News, India's Supreme Court justices suffer from serious Brahminical patriarchy. In 1992, a Hindu fanatic mob had demolished a nearly 500-year-old mosque, but the criminal act has been overlooked by the Supreme Court for almost 3 decades. At the same time, it went out of its way to expeditiously decide the civil case of the ownership of the mosque land, ignored science, history, and archaeological findings, and handed over that land to build a Hindu temple. Strangely, a judicial decision was based on the belief of a majoritarian community about the birthplace of a mythical figure. The Chief Justice, a Brahmin who presided the bench immediately after his retirement, has been given a seat by Narendra Modi in the upper house of Indian Parliament, Rajya Sabha. So with the help of the judiciary, Modi has managed to give legal legitimacy to the barbarian demolition of a minority place of worship and the start of construction of a massive temple for the majority community at that site. As if that was not enough, he traveled to Ayodhya in the middle of a raging pandemic like COVID to be the master of the groundbreaking ceremony of the temple, in spite of heading the government of a constitutionally secular country. He claimed the temple would help India's nation building, while no one could ignore the fact that the temple was being built after demolishing a mosque. Since Modi came to power in 2014, India's secular inclusive values have come under serious threat from Hindu right-wing organizations and supporters. However, after his re-election in 2019 with greater majority, his government has taken various legal and administrative measures which clearly affront to India's secular nature and character. Making triple talaq a criminal act, while many Hindus have abandoned their wives, and including the Prime Minister, abrupt withdrawal of the semi-autonomous status of Muslim minority state of Jammu and Kashmir, leaving out Muslim refugees from receiving Indian citizenship, and engaging India's Supreme Court legalize on legal grounds the transfer of land of a mosque to build a temple are some of these actions. Uniform Civil Code and the countrywide National Register for Citizens are next on the agenda. Rationalists are being killed by fanatic Hindutva groups. Academic freedom has been seriously curtailed and student activism is brutally suppressed. We have seen what happened in JNU, in Jamia. I have myself also witnessed what happened in Hyderabad University, Hyderabad Central University a few years back. History books are being rewritten and the voodoo science is being promoted. Highly incompetent Hindu right-wing sympathizers have been recruited in to run top educational and cultural institutions of the country. More than 20,000 civil society groups have been denied from receiving international funding support. As Donald A. Smith, who wrote a pioneering book on Indian secularism in 1963, rightly argued, I quote him, "Democracy and secularism are tightly held together by logic. If India abandons one, the other will go," unquote. Hinduism as an unorganized religion has been conducive to establish and promote secular institutions in India. But the rise of organized Hindutva under Narendra Modi's leadership is threatening to change that altogether and instead promote the opposite of secularism, the religious fundamentalism in the country. A country cannot be democratic without being secular. Democracy as an idea grew out of the concept of secularism in 17th century Europe. The idea that the society is made by human beings, not by religious authority, is key for the democracy to survive and grow. Many countries are now democratic, could not have become so without going through secularization process. But the fundamentalist forces consider secularism as a threat to their survival and always work against it. Sangh Parivar is doing all it can to make India a Hindu country. RS doesn't miss any opportunity to declare India as a Hindu Rashtra. Prime Minister Modi has declared himself as a Hindu nationalist. Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, is openly endorsing the idea of India for Hindus only. Government policies dealing with religious diversity in India and democracy, as well as its established institutions that enforce these policies, have increasingly come under pressure. At this time, we should look at non-Hindus are more than 20% of India's total population. Majority Hindus are also divided among four major caste systems, and Dalits and Adivasis. If we count castes in India, there are at least 3,000 castes and probably more number of subcastes among Hindus. RSS opposes job reservation and its sympathizers claim that caste system is in retreat in India. This claim is nothing but ridiculous. More than 5,000 women get killed every year in India in the name of so-called family honor for marrying outside the caste. Only 5.8% of Indians marry outside their caste, and the number has not changed for 4 decades. Hindutva group has skillfully built a discourse that Hindus are in danger in a secular India. Thus, there is a need for reassertion of Hindu identity and making India a Hindu country. To build this Hindus in danger discourse, they usually blame high birth rate among Muslim population and increasing conversion to Christianity by missionaries. But these are half-truths. no doubt have created an illusory vulnerability among a large section of Hindus in India, despite the fact that the ever increasing Hindu population is more than 1 billion and continues to be 80% of the country's total population. Not only that, Hindus have been in total control of economic and political power of the country since its creation in 1947. The RSS, the mothership of Hindutva forces, has achieved remarkable success in building Muslims and Christians as perceived threats to Hindus in India. At the same time, this Maharashtrian Brahmin male-dominated RSS has done everything to protect and preserve the evils of the 3,000-year-old caste system. The RSS is so committed to caste hierarchy that it had opposed India's modern constitution as it had wanted Manusmriti to be the basis of its fundamental principle. The strong belief of the RSS in the laws of Manu doesn't allow it to accept India as an inclusive, secular state where every citizen has certain rights irrespective of caste, religion, or gender. While it expands with the help of tokenism, its social base across caste division for political reasons, it still does everything to preserve social segregation among Hindus and the domination of upper caste over lower caste, Dalits, and tribal population. It's even opposed to the reservation for the historically oppressed groups in government jobs and educational institutions. Though Indian constitution bans discrimination on the basis of caste, it doesn't abolish the caste system. Even there are definitional differences. There is a lot of similarities between caste inequality and oppression with racial caste inequality and oppression with racial inequality and oppression in the West. However, while the rest of the world, particularly the West, feels ashamed about racial inequality in societies, at the same time, in India is probably the only country in the world where caste-based inequality is forcefully justified in the name of religion. No doubt, India's large minority population, lower caste, Dalits, and Adivasis seriously challenge Hindutva narratives of social cohesion and homogeneity. BJP never misses any chance of spreading disinformation among Hindus in order to contribute to this fantasies of national incompleteness, to anger, and to ultimately to desire to purify the country of the minorities, indigenous population, and Dalits. The present India under Narendra Modi's Hindutva regime is exactly what Periyar had said then. I quote Periyar, "In other lands, knowledge alone is respected and trusted and held as the basis of everything. But in this country," means India, "men believe only in rituals and ceremonies, in God, in religion, and such other rubbish." I unquote. It's high time for India and Hinduism to reject Modiism and emulate many of Periyar's ideals to conform to the need of the time. Thank you once again for inviting me to speak on this occasion.